Hello, everybody. Matt Gajewski here, back again with the Stochastic channel. Today, I am here to talk about Week 6, Thursday, 2-game slate. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. We are brought to you by Bet365. They have a deal for those of you in Kentucky, Ohio, New Jersey, Virginia, Iowa, Colorado, Louisiana, Indiana, Arizona, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. What you'll do... Sorry, just knocked over my water bottle. What you'll do is click the link below, make your first deposit of at least $5. Then you'll make a $5 wager on any team, could be a side or a total. Whether that wins or loses, you are going to get $200 in the form of bonus bets. Must be 21 or older to play, 18 in Kentucky. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's bring you behind the glass to our data usage tool, one of many tools we have over at Stochastic that you know and love, the sims, the projections that lead the industry. You name it, we have it. If you want to take advantage of that, look at the link below. But we're here to talk about these two games on deck. One of my favorite teams, my very own Texas State, is on the slate, fumbling away games like no other. They're currently 13.5-point favorites over Troy in a game with a 57.5 total. The better of the two totals on this two-gamer. Texas State is 37th in pace with a 52.5% pass rate. Jordan McLeod immediately stands out as the number one quarterback on the slate. He is very talented, but it is largely the product of few options to choose from. He has 101 rushing yards already this year. That's just over 3 yards per carry, including sacks, averaging 285 through the air. It is the past heaviest offense and the most efficient offense and one of the fastest offenses. They're actually not pass heaviest. UTEP is that. But anyway, this is the offense we want to target first and foremost. So he makes an excellent quarterback to look at right away, the first man in my lineups. Second, we go to the running back position. Ismail Mahdi has been leading a 70-30 split over Lincoln Pare. I'm not sure how you say that, but I fear this could devolve into more of a timeshare at some point. Mahdi's just been bad, and there's no way around this. He graded out as one of the least efficient running backs in my model. Now, we need to at least address the offensive line for this team. They have not been good run blocking. For whatever reason, they're 9th in pass blocking, 85th in run blocking. But still, the yards after contact, the forced missed tackles have not been there for Mahdi. He has a fumble again this year, which has been a problem. But he does catch the ball pretty well. He has 11 targets this year. He has a 62% route rate. So I'm not going to fade Mahdi just yet. And Lincoln Pare is 4,900. So while he does average 7.8 targets per game, you're paying a little bit for that. It's not my favorite spot to get to, but you could if you wanted to play both running backs. I wouldn't hate it, especially because Troy's defense is 115th against the run overall. So, I mean, this is a good get-right spot for Mahdi and company. In the receiving game, I think we definitely want to take some shots. My two preferred options are Joey Hobart. You got to go all the way up for him. I still have no problem with it. 8 targets per game, 92% route share. Second, I actually think I would rather go down to Cole Wilson. He has the better route share compared to Jaden Williams. Now, what you're paying for with Williams is more big playability, and that's been shown over this small sample. I'm not sure it's always going to be like that, but Williams has outgained Wilson 292 to 131. In receiving yardage, but you still see a separation in routes in most games. Williams only has one game above 82% of the routes, or 80% of the routes, I should say. His other games are below 63. Wilson has been at least 86% in all 4 games this year, and he has 2 games with double-digit targets. So I'm fine just paying all the way down for Wilson at 5,100 rather than play Williams. I'm going to play them both. I'm going to be playing multiple lineups, but in my personal exposures will be more overweight to Wilson as a product of really just pricing. From there, you have a couple other options that are more deep cuts. Chris Dawn has about a 50% route share. He's been at 45, 47, 46, and then 51% of the routes you could get to him. As you can see, this team does not use a tight end on every single play. So Connor Fox has only eclipsed 50% of the routes in 2 games. Below that as well. Bo Sparks occasionally on the field here and there. And that about does it for pass catchers in this offense. It's basically your big 3, Hobart, Williams, Wilson, and then Dawn and Fox split whatever's left when they go 4 wide versus when they play a tight end. On the other side, I don't know who's playing quarterback for Troy. Goose Crowder's a game-time decision. Tucker Kilcrease is a game-time decision, which might leave Matthew Caldwell. This straight up is something you'll have to watch right until the final hour. To rank them, Crowder's by far number one. He is the most efficient of the signal callers, not even particularly close. He has some rushing ability. Their offensive line is just bad, so sometimes he's just going to take sacks because 92nd in pass blocking, 133rd in run blocking. Even if you have mobility, that's going to limit you. But I still think he is the best rushing. Kilcrease has the best yards per carry, but he has a smaller sample. Still, I would rather have Kilcrease than Caldwell, who appears to be more of a pocket statue. He's the only one with negative rushing yards of this trio. But ultimately, this isn't the best quarterback situation on the slate. It's definitely behind Sam Houston, and it's going to rival what UTEP puts on the field. So great spot for late news if you're trying to gain maybe an edge that way, but it's not going to be a strong priority on this slate. Troy's also running the ball more than we've expected, and perhaps this is because they've had quarterback injuries. They're passing about 43% of the time. They're slow, 119th, but that's led to a lot of opportunities for both Damian Taylor and Gerald Green. Their opportunities are 11.4 per game for Taylor, 9.2 for Green. When games are competitive and they're not getting the snot beat out of them, we've seen that rise. Last game, Taylor had 18 carries to Green's 13. This is a pretty wide spread, so I'm not sure I would project something like that. But both of these players are decent values. I think you can incorporate them into your builds. And one last note here, like you've seen Tucker Kilcrease get a lot of designed attempts. Goose Crowder's been hurt, but he's gotten a fair amount too when he's been on the field. When Matthew Caldwell plays, because of his inability to run, they changed the offense. So I do think if Caldwell's out there, that probably means more attempts for Green and Taylor. I'm just not sure they're going to run Caldwell with the same frequency they would do with Crowder or Kilcrease. In the receiving game, extremely easy to break down. I think you just want to play Devontae Ross. He's too cheap on DraftKings. He's averaging 107 yards per game, and he has been awesome. This is a guy that dusted, I believe it was TJ Hall in Iowa secondary, who's still a pretty good defender. Like when you can dust an Iowa corner, that is worth mentioning. He's averaging 8.4 targets per game, a 37% target share. He'll project really well at this price. I'll likely be playing a lot of Ross. Once you get beyond that, like he's soaking up nearly 40% of the targets. So is there anyone else to get to? Peyton Higgins would be the two. His route share has only eclipsed 61% twice this year, and one of them was 64. So he doesn't have the best routes. Zariah Beeson is the same thing. He's been at 49%, 55, 58, 45, and then 56. Not great. Landon Parker, same thing. He's right in that range. Ethan Connor has been hurt for this team. So he's the only other player that was at like 90% of the routes, but he hasn't played in their last two games. That's actually led to a decent route share for backup tight end, Brody Dalton, 76% to 61. Maybe you could look at Brody Dalton at 3,100. He's not a focal point of the offense, as you can see, but he's out there a good amount. Nobody else is out on the field for any sort of like real frequency. So that's probably just a stay away for everyone else. I guess one last thing, Damian Taylor does appear to be the superior pass catching back. He has a 37% route share to, let's see here, Gerald Green's at 31%, so it's very slight. And, also this team has 2 running back targets on the year, 3, so very bad overall target distribution. They have 4 running back targets. It's pretty bad. I don't know. I would be happier if Caldwell plays for the running backs. Not as happy for Ross. Anyway, Sam Houston State UTEP. This is the second game on deck. 50 total, so definitely not as intriguing, but there's definitely some pieces we want to get into. Sam Houston's a 10-point favorite. They're 75th in pace with a 36% pass rate. Hunter Watson's been a terrible passer. And instead of benching him or something like that, they've leaned into his strength, which is his mobility. And holy smokes, they beat Texas State. A bit lucky if you ask me, but they still beat them on the back of 25 designed rush attempts for Hunter Watson. His passing props are like at 110 yards. He's averaging 126. I'm almost treating this like an armed forces quarterback. I don't care what he does through the air, because on the ground, he has the opportunity potentially just like absolutely break the slate with a 100-yard performance. He's expensive, but I still want to get to him and Jordan McLeod for stuff like cash. They are by far the two best quarterback options on this slate. I mean, you just don't get better than 25 designed attempts. It works. I don't think they're going to go away from it. They do run a little bit of a running back committee between Jay Ducker and DJ McKinley. It's 12 touches per game for Ducker to 9.2 for McKinney. And there hasn't been a lot of separation between that. Like last 3 games, it's kind of been the same split the whole time. The only real issue is you saw those attempts drop with Hunter Watson getting the designed attempts. The game prior to Watson's 25 design carry explosion, Jay Ducker had 20 carries. He dropped down to 14. McKinney went from 10 to 9, so not as drastic there, but that's at least worth mentioning. The other thing with this backfield, I don't know if John Gentry's hurt or what it is, but he played a decent amount in their first couple of games. He barely played last week. 1 carry for him. That certainly consolidated some running back opportunity and opportunity for Watson. Something to watch. Reporting's bad, but maybe Gentry's hurt. You'll have to watch and see. No one else is really worth mentioning. They do run receivers a decent amount, so like Noah Smith, Ife Adeyi, they have some carries too. Speaking of those players, Noah Smith, Ife Adeyi, Quavez Humphrey, these players are all very cheap. Now they are going to potentially fall victim to this pass rate declining. Last game, it was at 28%. You're going to need to get there on efficiency. No one had more than 2 targets in that, or 3 targets in that game. McKinney somehow 3 out of the backfield. Interesting. No receiver had more than 2. To dive into the routes for this team, I guess it's going to be important. The redeeming factor is they're not expensive, so you can kind of take shots on these guys. But Ife Adeyi, he's been pretty consistently above 80% of the routes. Quavez Humphrey and Noah Smith have both been around 60%, so certainly not quite as good there. That's because Simeon Evans is rotating onto the field. He'll be between 30 and 40-ish% of the routes more than likely. You're going to see a few other guys come in for a handful of routes here and there. And then in the receiving game at tight end, Elijah Sohn has been pretty routinely between like 50 and 65% of the routes, not a very important piece of this game. I definitely don't want more than 1 pass catcher in most lineups from Sam Houston, but I think these players are very talented. Noah Smith, Quavez Humphrey, and Ife Adeyi are the players I want, especially the ones below 4K. UTEP, 14th in pace, 60% pass rate. They run an air raid. Can we get some efficiency? Because they benched Skylar Locklear. Somehow this guy was averaging just 177 yards per game in an air raid offense. Imagine. They go to Cade McConnell, who somehow turned in worse efficiency metrics in this offense. I don't know, man. There's a good chance these players both see action in the game. I don't truthfully know how they're going to deploy this quarterback room. Neither have been good. Neither run the ball much. Locklear's a little better there. I'll still throw some shots. It's just not very often you get air raid offenses on 2-game slates. In the backfield, Javon Jackson has sort of iced everyone. He's averaging 15.3 touches per game. Their change of pace, Corey Wren, former TCU great, 3.7 touches per game. Not been efficient whatsoever. And they're not throwing to running backs a lot either. Javon Jackson's averaging just 1.8 targets per game. So he doesn't even really give you a floor. The only thing you'll see here is for some reason they listed Cam Thomas as a running back. I'm pretty sure that might be an error on my end. I'm going to check that right now. But he's listed as wait a second. Yeah, he's listed as a running back on DraftKings. Why did they do this? This doesn't make any sense. Wait a second. He's not listed as a running back. This is an error on my part. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. I'll adjust this error. I don't know how I did this. But, okay. He's a wide receiver. Ignore this. I'm going to just type over it. Anyway. Man, I really messed up this team somehow. How did we only get 8 targets here? I'll adjust this too so you can see it. Good thing I found this. Here we go. All right. Sorry for the filibustering. Okay. So we have a air raid offense for UTEP. Their routes pretty clearly mirror what you see in the screen for the top 3 guys. Those are the players you see on the field almost every single play. I don't think much separates them. This is basically just a crop of FCS transfers. But Cam Thomas has a route share above 90% in the last 3 games. That's awesome. Jaden Smith was at 100% the last 2. Only a few routes separate him from Cam Thomas overall this year, but target share definitely favors Thomas. Kenny Odom, his routes have been weird, but I think this is kind of sticky. They were using a tight end more in the beginning of the season, and since then his routes have gone 32% to 57 to 53, up to 96 last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago they had a bye. And in that game, he had 12 targets. So Kenny Odom, he might be in line for more work. And that was just them going full-blown 4 wide receivers. They erased the tight end. Previously, Marcus Vincent had, 46% route share, then 69%. Last game, he was at 8%. That split coincides directly with Kenny Odom's increase. The last player, Trey Goodman, he's been pretty consistently around 80 to 100% of the routes as well. So this is going to be 4 wide, most likely, unless they decide to go back to Vincent. I don't know why they would do that. He only had 6 targets all year to begin with. But now you have Odom, absolute monster target share so far this year. I'm not even sure I have this right yet still. Let me check this again. That looks correct to me. Think it's right. Well, no, it's not. Here's the actual correct targets. I don't know how I messed this up. All right, the actual official targets. I'm sorry for the mistake. But now it's updated for those of you with the tool on the back end. Nothing looks wrong for Sam Houston. Anyway, to go into pricing, I'm not sure why Cam Thomas is cheaper than Kenny Odom outside of just the explosion Kenny Odom had last time out. Those are the 2 guys I would like to get to. Jaden Smith at 44, I think, is completely fine, as is Trey Goodman. I'm probably going to end up with 2 UTEP receivers because of pricing. It's certainly going to be a UTEP heavy, Texas State heavy pass game in my lineups for both teams. Running back will be a little bit of a different story. Probably still going to get Mahdi. Not sure on the final running back position. So that will do it for my show full of errors today. Appreciate you guys sticking with me. I'll make sure the Friday show doesn't have this happen. That was a mess. Until next time, good luck, and we'll see you guys later.